turning 55 might just feel like another birthday, but from a retirement planning standpoint, it may be one of the most important years of your life because at age 55, two things line up in a way that never have before and may not line up again. And that is having access to your retirement dollars and then also having your health and energy. So how you manage these two factors can meaningfully impact the trajectory of your retirement. And because of that, today I wanted to walk you through something that's called the Rule of 55, how that rule works, when it can make sense to use in your retirement planning, and the trade-offs that you need to understand before you use it. So what is the Rule of 55? The Rule of 55 is an IRS provision that allows you to take penalty-free withdrawals from your current employer's 401k or 403b plan if you leave your job in or after you turn 55. So just to be a little bit more clear on that, you still have to pay ordinary income tax. You don't get to take that money out tax-free, but you just don't have to pay that 10% early withdrawal penalty that you typically would when you take funds before 59 and a half. So for some of you who may feel burned out and you're 55 or 56 and assume that your money is locked up until 59 and a half, this can actually be a game changer with your retirement planning. But this is where mistakes can happen and the details really do matter. So let's walk through a couple more of the technical rules. So with the Rule of 55, here are a couple of key requirements. You must leave your employer in or after the calendar year you turn 55. That money that you are planning to take out must stay in that employer's 401k plan, so you can't roll it over to an IRA. It has to stay in that 401k plan. If you do roll it over into an IRA, the Rule of 55 no longer applies, and this only applies to your current employer's plan. So if you have old 401k plans, it doesn't apply to those, just your current plan. Now, your plans typically do allow for you to roll those old 401ks into your current 401k plan, so you would just want to make sure that you are consolidating those, and especially when you're considering this strategy because the timing is critical. And also, not every employer plan allows you to take partial withdrawals under the Rule of 55. So you need to look into your plan provisions, call your HR department, and just confirm that just what the rules are around your specific plan and how the Rule of 55 applies to those distributions. And this is not a strategy that you want to assume works. You need to do your due diligence and really verify that it can work. And this is where it can be really beneficial to be working with a certified financial planner that can help walk you through this process and make sure that you don't miss any of these key details and everything gets executed appropriately, just so that you can have the retirement that you want to have and that you deserve. Before I go any farther, if you guys are enjoying this video, you want more retirement planning based content that comes from a biblical foundation, please make sure to like and subscribe so that you can get more videos like this in the future, and then also so that people like you can find these videos as well. I really appreciate it. Let's jump back in. What if your money is already in an IRA? Maybe this ship has already sailed. Well, there is another strategy called a 72T distribution that can sort of serve a similar function to the Rule of 55, but that rule is a bit more rigid and it is a bit more technical. So again, I would really highly recommend you working with a certified financial planner and working closely with your CPA to make sure that if you're going to do something like this, that it gets done correctly. So with the 72T distribution, how that works is you are going to set up a fixed withdrawal schedule from your IRA. You have to commit to that withdrawal schedule for at least 5 years, and then you don't really have the ability to change course on those distributions. So like I said, it is rigid and much less flexible, but still can allow you to have that early retirement. And that's all I'm really going to dive into that rule, because this video is focusing more on the Rule of 55. If you have more questions on that, make sure to leave a comment below. Now here's the second reason why turning 55 is very significant, I think, and this part often gets overlooked. The decade between age 55 and 65 is often your most active retirement window. You've probably heard the phrase the go-go year. So this is the epitome any of your go-go years. You have your energy, you have your health, you have the means, you have the time to go do the things that you're wanting to do. You have more capacity. There's a documented pattern in retirement that's called the retirement spending smile. I'm sure some of you have heard of this. And the retirement spending smile is a trend that shows that retirement spending typically tends to be higher earlier in retirement. And then as you start to slow down, health slows down, that spending starts to decline. And then when you get to your later years of life with healthcare expenses towards the end of life, that spending tends to trend back up, making that smile shape. And I think that that tells us something very important about retirement and about retirement planning. Retirement is not linear and it is not a straight line. Your physical ability to do certain things will change, and you really should take that into account when you are doing your planning. So when you evaluate utilizing the rule of 55, it's not just a math equation. You are evaluating the timing, your energy, and making sure that you are going to be able to do the things that you have been wanting to do your whole life, to have the retirement that you have been dreaming of. So on the other hand, let's actually talk trade-offs and talk real numbers here. So if you work longer, that generally improves your financial position. I mean, this makes sense. Practically, you work longer, so you're delaying taking withdrawals from your retirement nest egg, letting that nest egg grow. And then you're also adding more to it along the way, so that nest egg is not having withdrawals being taken from it, but it's also getting added to and it's growing. So looking at the simple math here, $100,000 invested at 6% for 10 years, it becomes about $179,000. So when looking at the rule of 55, let's actually talk trade-offs. Working longer generally improves your financial position, and this of course makes sense because if you're working longer, you're not taking withdrawals from your retirement account, allowing that retirement account to grow. And then in addition to that, while you're still working, you're typically still adding to that retirement nest egg, also bolstering that growth. And that's the opportunity cost of withdrawing early, retiring earlier. If you retire at 55, let's say, utilize this rule, you stop contributing, you may begin taking withdrawals, most likely you will, and your portfolio must last potentially 35 to 40 years. You're adding on how long that nest egg needs to last you, and that increases longevity risk. So before making that decision to retire early, to utilize the rule of 55, you just need to calculate and really make sure that you have your head wrapped around your fixed expenses, housing, insurance, taxes, utilities, things like that. You also want to make sure that you're accounting for healthcare costs. You're going to lose your employer coverage. You're going to need to find some private healthcare coverage until you're eligible for Medicare at age 65. You have to manage, if you're going to go through the marketplace, those ACA premiums, because those are income based and that matters from a tax planning perspective. And you, most importantly, I would say, need to understand what your income sources are going to be, where your money is going to be coming from that you're going to be living off of, which investment accounts from part-time work, making sure that you are ready for your Social Security timing, maybe you have a pension as well, making sure that all of those sources of income are coordinated together to work well for you. And here is the tax planning layer. Here is where things can get a bit more technical. If you use the rule of 55, you're withdrawing from your 401k, well, all of that money is going to count towards ordinary income. So it's all going to be taxable. And if you're not managing this correctly, that can push you into higher tax brackets, reduce your ability to do some preemptive planning like Roth conversions, and also can increase your healthcare premiums like we were just talking about, costing you some unnecessary money. And many early retirees intentionally create low income years between retirement and roughly around age 70 so that they're able to do Roth conversions and convert at lower rates. And if you're living heavily off of those 401k withdrawals, that may eliminate that window. Now, I'm not saying that that would wreck the health and the longevity of your retirement plan, but it often is a powerful retirement strategy to minimize your tax bill and to give you more flexibility. So you just want to make sure that you're planning around that, and that is where the sequencing of where you're taking income from really does matter. And maybe it can make more sense to live off of your brokerage accounts first. If you have that option, maybe use the rule of 55 minimally and try to preserve that tax bracket space for those Roth conversions. And this is again where planning can be very specific, makes a lot of sense to be working with a good financial planner. And this is also where I would say if retiring early is something that is very much on your radar, I would highly recommend contributing to a brokerage account to give you that flexibility, because the rule of 59.5 doesn't apply to the money that you will have in those brokerage accounts. So it's a really powerful, flexible tool in your tool belt for retirement, especially for early retirement. So here's the question: should you use the rule of 55? Well, it depends, of course. I don't know your situation, and the rule of 55 is not necessarily a magic retirement switch. It's just a tool, and albeit a very powerful one at at that. And if used wisely, it can provide you with flexibility. It can bridge you to 59.5 to maybe utilize some of your other qualified retirement dollars. It can allow for maybe you to do some part-time work, and then it can just create some breathing room during the end of your working career if you're starting to experience some burnout. Or maybe you can utilize that to have a maybe test run at retirement. But it must overarchingly be fit into your withdrawal strategy, your tax strategy, your investment strategy, healthcare strategy. None of these isolated pieces of your retirement planning are actually isolated or on their own independent islands. They all do need to still work together. And in closing here, some things to remember. You can always make more money, especially you've been working your whole life, building up your skill set, becoming the person that you are. You have, I'm sure, great character, great skills, a lot of talent. You can make more money if you need it, but you can't create more time. And though you can help to preserve your health, that is going to not always be there as well. So you don't want to make an emotional decision that's going to permanently weaken your long-term plan. If you're approaching 55 and wondering whether early retirement is realistic, this is the time to really run those projections, some real numbers, and not just make guesses. And for you, if you're curious, if you are in a space where you're able to retirement, make sure to click the link below in our bio, go to our website. You can fill out the quick 2-minute retirement quiz, get a personalized response, and see if you are on track for retirement, see what those numbers look like. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.